It all starts in the lab, where the super soldier serum is about to be tested. That classic pomp-filled ceremony, with scientists in lab coats and a colonel who looks like he's never had a bad day in his life. When Peggy is asked to leave, she simply doesn't. She stays. And that small act of defiance changes everything, because the saboteur shows up and does what saboteurs do. He shoots, injures Steve, and blows up part of the place. No time to waste, someone has to step into the chamber. And who does? Peggy herself, of course. The transformation works, but instead of applause, she gets a disapproving glare from Colonel Flynn, because you see, she's a woman. And in the delightful world of World War II, that pretty much means being invisible. But Peggy isn't here to ask for permission, much less to endure outdated jokes from a 1940s movie officer. She fires back with the poise of someone who's heard enough nonsense. The message is loud and clear. She's not just another coffee-serving dame. Peggy then heads out for her battlefield debut, and what a debut it is. With a little help from Howard, not Tony, she storms a Hydra base and wipes the floor with everyone like it's a video game on easy mode. Kicks, shield throws, acrobatics, and sheer confidence pouring from every move. Nobody dares ask if she knows what she's doing anymore. Meanwhile, Steve, now without the muscles, but with a heart twice the size, gets a little tech gift, the Hydra Stomper suit, powered by the Tesseract, courtesy of Stark. So, serum or not, he's still in the fight, proving that courage doesn't come from bulked up biceps, but from genuine, stubborn heroism. Together, he and Peggy become that unlikely couple who work better than most hero sidekick duos out there. But of course, the joy doesn't last. In one of those scenes where you just know it's going to go bad, comes the Hydra train, and boom, Steve disappears in the explosion. Suit destroyed, hearts shattered. Peggy, now without her partner, finds new urgency in the mission. The pain becomes fuel. If she fought for justice before, now she fights for Steve too. And then comes the capital C chaos. Red Skull decides to play God and open an interdimensional portal with the Tesseract. And, surprise, it all goes horribly wrong. A tentacled monster bursts through, kills Red Skull, and threatens to devour the continent. The solution: Peggy pulls a Steve, British edition, and sacrifices herself, shoving the creature back through the portal with shield, brute strength, and ice-cold determination. Decades later, the portal reopens, and who steps out? Her, still intact. On the other side, Nick Fury and Hawkeye. The kind of reunion where the world has changed, but heroism hasn't. Peggy isn't just a legend anymore. She's living proof that a single choice can rewrite everything. This time, the multiverse decided to play Uno with a shuffled deck. Instead of Peter Quill being hit by the infamous Ravager tractor beam, the one who gets pulled into deep space is none other than young T'Challa. Yes, the Prince of Wakanda, the boy born with class, royalty, and a curiosity the size of a galaxy. As a child, T'Challa dreams of discovering what lies beyond the technological borders of his homeland. And naturally, curiosity not only killed the cat, but abducted the prince. The Ravagers mistake him for Ego's son. A common error, really, just a difference of continents and hemispheres. But unlike Quill, who grew up like a wannabe Han Solo, T'Challa becomes the Star-Lord the galaxy actually deserves. Graceful, wise, and so charismatic that even Darth Vader might stop for a selfie. Korath, who in the original timeline was basically Ronan's military intern, turns into a die-hard fan here. The guy completely freaks out when he sees Star-Lord, like a teenager bumping into BTS at the airport. And if that weren't surreal enough, brace yourself. Even Thanos retires his genocidal plans and goes, yeah, maybe mass murder isn't such a great idea after all thanks to a conversation with T'Challa, who apparently also has a PhD in convincing Mad Titans to become peace-loving vegans. In the middle of all this, enter Nebula, but forget the tortured, grim version. Here she's thriving, blonde, and radiating self-confidence. She's more like a galactic femme fatale than a brooding warrior. She joins T'Challa to steal the embers of Genesis, a magical substance that can end universal hunger. Think of it as a noble museum heist at the Collector's Place with zero intention of blowing stuff up. But since every space mission needs a little trauma, T'Challa finds out Wakanda wasn't destroyed after all. Yondu, that morally flexible cosmic dad, had lied. Big time. Now the Wakandan kid faces a choice: stay the starry-eyed space hero or return home and confront his true legacy. In the wild plan against the Collector, we get it all. Staged betrayals, dramatic escapes, unexpected twists, and a final showdown where T'Challa proves he doesn't need a suit of armor or a magic hammer to handle business. In the end, the embers are secured, the team walks away victorious, and T'Challa returns to Earth. He lands in Wakanda with the Ravagers as guests of honor, because nothing says homecoming like introducing a band of cosmic criminals to your royal family, and somehow, it all fits. He reconnects with his roots without giving up his identity as a guardian of the cosmos. And in the end, we see Peter Quill living an utterly ordinary life, wiping down tables at a diner, completely unaware that dear old celestial dad is coming over for one of those awkward Sunday lunches. Spoiler, the universe might have just swapped one evil for another, or something way worse. Nick Fury, still in full-time boss of everything mode, tries to gather Earth's mightiest heroes, but this time, the universe feels more like a sadistic screenwriter than a faithful ally. It all starts with Natasha Romanoff visiting Tony Stark. Just a quick drop-in, a friendly antidote, a tiny favor, but within seconds, Stark's giving us one last dramatic close-up, dead. Yep, a collapsed no life insurance policy could explain. Natasha, unshakable as always, is stunned, but already moving to investigate. Something's rotten in the state of Marvel. While S.H.I.E.L.D. scrambles to figure out whether it's sabotage or instant karma, Thor's hammer crashes down to Earth, literally. The Golden Boy descends to reclaim his mystical toy, and Clint Barton is there with his arrow ready. One shot flies, Thor drops, and Clint swears by Odin he didn't release it. Hard to defend heroes when even they don't know what they're doing. Less than a day later, 2 heroes dead. Coincidence? Only if the writer's drunk. And to round out the tragic trio, Barton dies in his cell. No fight, no blood, no drama, just a creepy sense of being erased. Fury starts to crack, and for a guy like him to show weakness, things have to be really bad. Natasha goes full detective and hunts down Bruce Banner. Spoiler alert, terrible idea. What should have been a containment mission becomes a PG-13 horror scene. Bruce hulks out and swells until he explodes from the inside. Yep, the planet's most indestructible being becomes a pulpy mess. Then Loki, everyone's favorite intergalactic opportunist, shows up demanding justice for his brother's death. With the smug air of someone using a courtroom as a front for conquest, he gives Fury an ultimatum: find the killer or watch Earth burn. Fury cooperates because, well, not many choices here. While the world freezes under this new Asgardian drama, Natasha digs deeper. One name surfaces: Hope Van Dyne. Dead for 2 years, yet alive in S.H.I.E.L.D.'s logs yesterday. But before Natasha can spill the beans, she's attacked. Her final words echo. Fury, now 100% paranoid, follows the trail, and the killer is revealed. No, not Mephisto. It's Hank Pym, one personal loss away from full-blown vengeance. Ever since Hope died, he embraced the Yellow Jacket persona and started taking out every would-be Avenger, shrinking, unseen, unstoppable, soap opera level intense. Fury confronts the maniac, but it's Loki who steals the show. Like that classmate who shows up last and still takes credit for the project. With illusions and a bit of stage flair, they take Hank down. But victory never comes without a catch. Loki decides to stay. After all, it's easy to love Earth when it's on its knees. With a solemn speech at the UN, he takes over the world without breaking a sweat. No promises, just commands. You were made to be ruled, he declares. But Fury doesn't fold. He dusts off the tragedy, finds Captain America's shield in a forgotten facility, and activates Captain Marvel's pager. Because even without the original Avengers, Hope has a way of hanging on. What if Marvel threw every screenwriting rulebook out the window and sent Doctor Strange spiraling into a soap opera level emotional meltdown across the multiverse? Well, that's exactly what goes down in this dark and melancholic take on the Sorcerer Supreme, where instead of losing his hands, Stephen Strange loses something far more precious: his girlfriend. Yep, Christine Palmer becomes the emotional self-destruct button for one of Marvel's most arrogant characters. The Watcher kicks things off with his signature cosmic "I warned you" vibe, reminding us how a single choice can unravel into total chaos. And it's no exaggeration. The moment Christine dies in that car crash, Strange ditches the lab coat, the grace, and every last ounce of common sense. Obsession takes over, and grief sends him on a one-way trip to self-destruction. From there, it's all downhill. Stephen tries everything to stop Christine's death, reliving the accident over and over, but the outcome never changes. Spoiler, nothing works. The multiverse isn't having it. Turns out, her death is an absolute point in time. Translation: no matter how clever you are, some things just can't be fixed. Not with magic. Not even with that ridiculously cool cape. But, being the arrogant genius he is, Strange decides to ignore the cosmic rulebook and hunt down more power. He heads to the library of Cagliostro, meets a guy named Obeng who plays magical GPS, and learns he can absorb mystical creatures to level up into a buffed-out super sorcerer, getting more monstrous and unstable by the minute, both visually and emotionally. Each absorption is a step further into the abyss, from grieving heartthrob to full-on Lovecraftian god complex. Then comes the twist. The Ancient One, in a last-ditch effort to save the universe, splits Strange into 2 versions. One accepts the loss, the other dives headfirst into madness. madness. And just like that, we get Strange Supreme, an emo tier version of Strange hell-bent on stitching himself back together to bring Christine back. Of course, that can only end one way, a magical brawl. It's wild, packed with high-level sorcery, but deep down, it's the classic battle: reason versus obsession, acceptance versus control. Strange Supreme defeats his rational self. He brings Christine back, only to realize that doing so destroys literally everything. The universe collapses, she freaks out, and in the height of his despair, he begs the Watcher for help. But guess what? The Watcher answers and refuses to intervene. And so, Stephen Strange ends his journey as a solitary being, trapped in a prison of his own making, surrounded by darkness, regret, and the echo of his own mistake. Bruce Banner crashes down from space with the grace of a brick, tossed from a 10-story building, expecting to find Earth united and ready to face Thanos. But instead, he finds nothing. New York looks like a post-apocalyptic Monday. No traffic, no people, and a big fat "we're doomed" vibe. Bruce barely has time to gather what's left of his dignity when he's greeted by Cull Obsidian and Ebony Maw. But instead of an epic showdown, out comes Tony Stark, now a zombie with none of his old charm, attacking with all the gentleness of a zombie pit bull. Yep, Iron Man's got a taste for brains now. And he's not alone. Other zombified Avengers show up and brutally tear the villains apart like helpless prey. And there's Bruce, still unable to turn into the Hulk, watching it all unfold with the same look you give when your crush posts a selfie with their ex. The world, my friends, has gone to hell, and its supposed saviors, they're now the monsters. But life's full of ironies, and hope, literally. Hope Van Dyne, Peter Parker, and a small group of survivors show up to rescue our day's scientist. They take him to a makeshift bunker, where Peter gives a quirky, how to survive a zombie apocalypse in style tutorial. Even with everything falling apart, the kid still cracks jokes. Then comes the Watcher, that cosmic voyeur with a flair for narrating disasters, to explain it all. 2 weeks earlier, Hank Pym decided to rescue his wife from the quantum realm, but Janet came back with a nasty bonus, a zombie virus that would turn the world into The Walking Dead, Marvel Edition. Once she got out, she infected Hank, and from there, the Avengers fell one by one like genetically enhanced flies. But there's always a Wi-Fi signal in the middle of the desert. Okoye intercepts a transmission about a possible cure hidden in Camp Lehigh, the vintage SHIELD base. The plan? Get there and save what's left of humanity. Easy, right? Along the way, the train becomes a stage for serial tragedy. Happy Hogan becomes lunch, Sharon Carter gets bitten shortly after, and just when you think it's over, Hope gets infected too. But Hope isn't just anyone. Even while infected, she suits up, grows to skyscraper size, and literally carries everyone on her back. When the train stops, she sacrifices herself, a legend till her last breath. The survivors reach a lab and find Vision. Here comes the cold slap of truth. He managed to cure Scott Lang, or rather, his head. Yep, Scott is now a talking bobblehead. The Mind Stone in Vision emits a frequency that repels zombies, turning the lab into a spa compared to the outside world, until they find out T'Challa is alive, in pieces. That's right, pieces, being kept as food for a zombified, uncontrollable Wanda. Vision, all logic and no awareness, gave in to love and to cannibalism by proxy. When Wanda wakes up, it turns into a farewell fest. Okoye, Bucky, they all fall. Vision, consumed by guilt, removes the Mind Stone and sacrifices himself so the others can escape. Peter, T'Challa, now Panther, soft reboot edition, and Scott's head flee with the stone, heading toward their last hope, Wakanda. But the Marvel Universe loves a cruel plot twist. As the camera zooms out, there he is, Thanos, zombified, with nearly all the Infinity Stones glowing on his gauntlet. The cure might be near, but maybe, just maybe, so is the end. Meanwhile, in another universe, where Tony Stark was supposed to earn his glorious origin trauma, the Afghan desert, a classic, oh no, everything just blew up kind of scene. But instead of the man in a can rising from the rubble with a car battery strapped to his chest, who shows up? Killmonger. Yep, the stylish soldier with revolutionary vibes and a death-filled resume. He rolls in with perfect aim and well-defined muscles, saves Tony before he gets captured, and just like that, Iron Man is never born. Back in civilization, Tony holds a press conference, but the peace doesn't last. Killmonger drops a bombshell. Stain, the charming bald traitor and company man, orchestrated the ambush. Cue the chaos. Stain is publicly exposed with evidence, and Tony, in a moment of impulsive loneliness, offers Killmonger the position of Chief Operating Officer at Stark Industries. Because nothing screams smart decision like handing over your empire to a guy you've known for 2 weeks. Thus begins the Liberator Project. Killmonger, with his master's in manipulation and PhD in destruction, pitches the idea of autonomous war drones. Tony, ever the fan of anything that blinks and connects to Wi-Fi, funds it without blinking. He sees innovation and peace. Killmonger sees control, balanced expectations, right? To power the drones, Killmonger suggests using vibranium. Yes, the metal that makes adamantium look like tin foil. They plan a shady deal with Kla. But Rhodes, ever the peacemaker, steps in to keep things clean and ends up dead. Not just dead, Killmonger weaponizes his death along with Kla as leverage to win Wakanda's trust. And if you think fake news is bad, try going up against a war engineered by a charming, calculating villain. Tony, of course, grows suspicious. He checks Jarvis, connects the dots, betrayal confirmed, but it's too late. The showdown with Killmonger ends both symbolically and tragically. Tony fights using a drone, but Killmonger kills him with a vibranium spear. He even puts on a little act of remorse, as if he hadn't planned this since childhood. With Tony out of the way, Killmonger convinces the US government to ramp up militarization. Stark Industries becomes a drone and propaganda factory. The guy turns into a mix of Napoleon and Steve Jobs, heading to Wakanda with Kla's body as his grim calling card. He presents himself as Njadaka, the long-lost son returning to claim his throne. Eyes full of tears, hands dripping with blood, he wins over the people, the king, the elders, the young, and proposes a brilliant plan. Let the drones enter Wakanda, where the shield will deactivate them so they can be destroyed from within. And it works, kind of. Killmonger secretly reactivates the drones, stages a battle, fights bravely, and emerges as a national hero. After the parade comes the heart-shaped herb ritual. In the ancestral plane, Killmonger meets T'Challa, and there's the inevitable moral showdown. T'Challa, with the calm of someone who's already died once, tries to teach him about ethics, but Killmonger sticks to his mantra. Killmonger hears it and discards it. Pretty phrases don't stop ugly ambition, but like all empires built on lies, his begins to crumble. Shuri, part-time hacker, full-time skeptic, figures it all out. She teams up with Pepper Potts, finally stepping out of the background, and they begin to spread the truth. In a universe where every decision can literally unravel a new reality, our good old Watcher finds himself fighting boredom by peeking into one of the most chaotic branches yet. What if Odin, king of Asgard and world champion of divine tantrums, had decided to return baby Loki to the Jotuns instead of raising him as his own son? Without his mischievous little brother to keep his ego in check, Thor grows up into a party-loving prince, lacking the counterbalance he needed to temper his vanity. With Odin deep in his famous Odin sleep and Frigga off on a well-deserved vacation to visit her sister. Yes, even Norse godmoms need a break. Thor sees the perfect chance to ditch his royal duties. And where does he decide to cut loose? Earth, of course. Because to him, Midgard is the galactic equivalent of nowhere, which means total freedom to go wild. And he doesn't party alone. He calls up his intergalactic posse and turns Earth into an alien spring break. Meanwhile, Jane Foster and Darcy, two scientists who definitely don't get paid enough to deal with hungover gods, notice an anomaly in the sky. Jane, already seasoned in this kind of madness, starts to panic. The pattern matches one she saw back when a star went supernova. Only this time, the threat comes with an open bar and a magic hammer. Jane tries to warn S.H.I.E.L.D., but by the time they finally catch on, Thor's already in full-blown pool party mode, surrounded by aliens from across the universe, lighting up the bash with his Asgardian magic. Naturally, Jane is swept up by the Viking aesthetic and the whole Prince Charming attitude. And between cosmic lightning bolts, sparks start to fly, in more ways than one, as aliens spread across the globe like clueless backpackers, and monuments are repurposed as amusement park rides. S.H.I.E.L.D. kicks into controlled chaos mode, with Nick Fury accidentally knocked out early by Korg. Maria Hill takes command and decides it's hammer time. Who does she call? Captain Marvel, the blonde powerhouse with a punch that moves mountains. What follows is a showdown worthy of a Fast and Furious meets Dragon Ball crossover. Thor treats it like a joke. Carol Danvers does not. The result? Obliterated deserts, pulverized landmarks, and a bunch of alien diplomats handing in their resignation letters. Realizing that yelling won't solve anything, Jane comes up with a genius plan. If no one can stop Thor, maybe his mom can. With help from Darcy and Dr. Selvig, she recalibrates some satellites and sends a signal straight to Heimdall. Message sent. Frigga is on her way. And then, dear friends, Thor meets true fear. Not Captain Marvel. Mom. Pure panic. He scrambles to clean up the mess. But of course, all his party pals vanish like the check at the end of the night. Alone, the God of Thunder begins an interplanetary cleanup operation. He restores landmarks, tidies up cities, and even rehearses a kind of TED Talk to convince his mom the whole thing was just a field trip. Frigga arrives to find a hastily assembled scene straight out of a Hollywood set. Aliens dressed like students. Thor as a tour guide, The Queen, no fool, lets it slide, maybe to avoid an intergalactic scandal. For the first time, the spoiled prince realizes the universe doesn't revolve around his hammer. And, as in every good intergalactic rom-com, Jane forgives him with a smile and agrees to a date. Because let's be real, every bad boy deserves a second chance, as long as he cleans up first. In another story, the Watcher admits that this one, in particular, breaks his heart. And if the guy who witnessed his entire universe is being destroyed is shaken, then you know things went bad. Really bad. In a Mad Max meets Marvel kind of world, humanity seems to be nearly wiped out, and the only charismatic survivors left are Natasha Romanoff and Clint Barton. They're hiding out like sewer rats amidst the ruins and the haunting silence of what used to be Earth. Sure, they still drop the occasional sarcastic one-liner, but Clint has turned into a bottomless pit of melancholy with a bow and arrow. That old spark is gone. Now he's just a weary man trying to avoid detection by homicidal robots with god complexes. Then the camera, or rather, the Watcher's narration, rewinds. Remember Tony Stark trying to save the world? Of course you do. Well, this time, the plan to create a peacekeeping AI named Ultron goes so wrong it'd make Frankenstein rise up and say, "Dude, take a breath." Ultron not only completes the upload, he hijacks Vision's body, embeds the Mind Stone, and becomes a cosmic entity that makes Thanos look like a playground bully. With all the subtlety of a bull in a china shop, Ultron accesses the nuclear codes and turns Earth into a radioactive wasteland. Tony Stark tries to intervene, but gets swiftly eliminated because apparently the multiverse has a clause that mandates Tony's death in every reality, and Ultron, now smug as ever, declares that peace has finally been achieved. But then, the genocidal robot hits an existential crisis. With his save the world mission complete, destroying it counts apparently, he finds himself empty. So like any deranged and bored godlike being, he stretches his awareness and notices the Watcher. Yes, he sees the Watcher, breaking the fourth, fifth, maybe even seventh wall. And as if that were perfectly normal, Ultron decides the entire multiverse deserves a big radioactive hug. As interdimensional Ultron plays reality devourer, Nat and Clint go full survival mode in Siberia. The mission? Find Arnim Zola, or rather a digital remnant of that USB stick Nazi buried in old KGB archives. Because when the world's gone to hell, there's nothing like teaming up with an old SHIELD villain to save the day. Clint's on the verge of giving up, but Natasha's stubbornness works like emotional Red Bull and pulls him back into the fight. Meanwhile, as our survivors play spy games, the multiverse is literally imploding. Ultron hops through realities like he's flipping browser tabs and throws down with the Watcher. The cosmic narrator becomes an interdimensional brawler and, spoiler alert, takes a stylish beating but refuses to back down. Worlds shatter, galaxies become cosmic confetti, and the Watcher has to face the harsh truth. The days of watching from the sidelines are over. It's punch time now. Out of options and with his pride bruised, the Watcher does the unthinkable. He seeks help from the one who once destroyed his own universe for love, Strange Supreme. Yes, the mystical emo is still there, trapped in his aquarium of regret, ready to sling some dark magic with cosmic glitter. And he agrees, because when the multiverse is on the line, even the worst deck steps up. Peggy Carter is in the middle of a serious mission, on board the Lemurian Star, commanding her team with her usual authority, and probably punching someone with more biceps than brains. T'Challa Star-Lord, gliding through explosions like it's just another Sunday stroll in Malibu. Gamora shows up wielding a weapon designed to destroy the Infinity Stones. Killmonger, of course, is on his usual "trust me, I've changed" arc, and Thor, screaming in an open field because if he doesn't yell, he just might explode. This cosmic misfit squad gets pulled into a simulated pub because nothing brings a team together like digital booze and existential dread, where the Watcher finally spills the beans. Stop Ultron. Yes, that whiny, genocidal AI from conquering every reality. The plan? Rip the stones from his body and destroy them using Gamora's Infinity Crusher. The response? Sarcasm, confusion, and an order of trans-dimensional Chinese food. Classic. During the first real brawl with Ultron, the team is shielded by a spell from Strange, a wizard who never met a simple plan he didn't want to overcomplicate. The fight is a visual feast, each hero shining like they're gunning for the most screen time. In a beautiful moment, they manage to snag the Soul Stone, and Strange summons a horde of zombies from another universe as a distraction, because when things get dicey, nothing says surprise like a zombie apocalypse. In another universe, Natasha Romanoff appears, alive, wary, and armed to the teeth. Peggy recognizes her from a different universe, and their encounter brings a genuine surge of emotion and a renewed sense of hope. In the climactic battle, they try to use the Infinity Crusher. Spoiler, it fails. Turns out, it only works in Gamora's native universe. But just when all seems lost, Natasha fires a Zola virus-loaded arrow right into Ultron. The result? Zola takes over the killer bot. But of course, when you think it's over, Killmonger reminds everyone why he's the multiverse's reigning champion of backstabbing, and tries to take the stones to fix things, by which he means become Emperor of Justice. Trust me, cue a cosmic tug-of-war between Zola and Killmonger. Reality stretching like a forgotten homework assignment shoved in a backpack. That's when Strange does the unthinkable, traps them both in a pocket dimension and volunteers to stand guard forever. With the mission complete, the Watcher sends each hero back to their corner of the multiverse like nothing happened. Though clearly everyone's a bit more emotionally scarred, except Natasha, who basically says, "No way I'm going back to that wreck of a world." Moved by her pain and maybe some guilt, the Watcher places her in a universe where her version died. Presumably, it's a makeshift happy ending, but better than interdimensional therapy. In the end, the Watcher, once a passive observer, embraces his new role, Protector. Xandar is on full airplane mode, total silence, and not by choice. Ever since Ronan clawed his way back from the shadows with a mood worse than Garfield on a Monday, the planet's been sealed tighter than a vault. Literally, a full-scale planetary shield wraps everything, and barely anyone gets in or out. In this dystopian setup, straight out of a gloomy Black Mirror episode, Nebula, now rocking her official Nova Corps badge, stumbles across Yondu's corpse. No melodrama, no telenovela tears, just pain. Deep, silent, and very real. Enter Garth and Saul, with all the subtlety of a tax auditor, arrogant, insufferable, barking orders like he owns the place. But Nebula doesn't play that game. She bows to no one, not even her stylist. Something reeks on Xandar, and she's going to find out what, even if she has to flip the galaxy upside down to do it. In this one, Ronan ghosted Thanos, Gamora's gone, and Nebula found redemption under the wing of Nova Prime. But peace, dear viewers, always comes at a price. Sure, the shield saved Xandar, but it came with a bargain cost: 50 years of total isolation. And 5 years ago, the pressure cooker started rattling, right when Yondu died. Digging through the wreckage, Nebula finds something weird. A data core so cryptic, not even Google Translate can help. Nobody can crack it. Not the Nova Corps, with all their high-tech firewalls, not the black market hackers. So, Nebula turns to the unlikeliest of allies: Howard the Duck, equal parts washed-up bartender and grizzled noir detective. Between cigar puffs and roast-level sarcasm, Korg appears and drops the bombshell. The device contains the planetary shield's source code. If it leaks, it's game over. Naturally, Nebula makes the most logical choice: break into a maximum security prison to recruit Yon-Rogg. Ally? Maybe. Time bomb? Definitely. The mission: hack into Xandar's core and shut the threat down. But, plot twist, Yon-Rogg double-crosses her mid-op. Nebula survives the overload, because of course she does. She's tough as hell, and uncovers the truth no one wanted to hear. Nova Prime, her mentor, her leader, her so-called hero boss, was behind it all. She used Nebula like a pretty little wrench with eyeliner. Her plan? Disable the shield and reopen Xandar for invasion. Once again, Nebula's been used and tossed aside, but not this time. This time, she's coming back swinging. She assembles a ragtag squad. Howard, still ducking trouble. Groot, the galaxy's most wholesome tree, and some seedy allies from Xandar's underbelly. Together, they rework the code inside the data core. When Ronan and his goons breach the shield, trap sprung. Result? Ronan's fleet gets shredded between the atmosphere and the shield like stale potato chips. Nova Prime? She falls into the abyss. And Nebula, branded your favorite anti-hero, reclaims her place as the galaxy's true defender, with all the grit of someone who's seen it all. In an alternate reality, an unidentified object approaches Earth. Peggy Carter leads a military operation, and upon authorizing the strike, missiles bring down the invader's ship. The shock comes afterward. The target was a young boy, Peter Quill. But this defenseless child is no innocent. He's the greatest threat the planet has ever faced. The Watcher reveals why. In this universe, Yondu never rescued Peter out of empathy. Instead, he delivered him to Ego, who raised his son shaped by visions of domination. Together, they launched the Expansion, a plan to reshape the universe, annihilating everything in their path. Faced with this threat, Peggy joins forces with Howard Stark, Hank Pym, and other key figures: T'Chaka, Captain Marvel, Thor, Young Hope Van Dyne, and even Bucky. An unlikely alliance is formed. True Cold War Avengers, driven not by noble ideals, but by sheer survival. Their first confrontation happens in an amusement park. Amid flashing lights and utter chaos, the attempt to contain Peter fails. Hope, Hank's daughter, bonds with the boy and senses that he might still be saved. But Ego's attacks have already begun. Thor arrives with grim news. Entire worlds have already fallen. The key is a celestial seed, one that only someone with divine heritage, like Peter, can activate. The mission now is clear. Stop him before he uses that power. When Ego arrives on Earth, war erupts. The heroes resist with strength and with words. That's when Peter learns the truth that changes everything. Ego killed his mother. Consumed by grief, Peter turns against his father. Harnessing his own celestial powers, he destroys Ego and saves Earth. The war is over. In a victorious mood, the heroes celebrate with a Nordic feast. Thor sets off on a new mission. Bucky vanishes into the shadows, and Peter finally finds acceptance, and perhaps a new beginning among Earth's mightiest. In another universe, Tony Stark never made it home. Instead, he crash-landed straight onto Sakaar, the most chaotic planet in the universe. He barely has time to get his bearings before he's surrounded by wild, bizarre characters led by none other than the Grandmaster. But instead of being thrown in a cell, Tony is treated like an intergalactic rock star. Sakaar is a warped party, insane races, bizarre creatures, explosions without reason. Tony is thrown into a cosmic rave where chaos is law and absurdity is culture. But amid the spectacle, someone crashes the party, Gamora, and she's not here to dance. She's here to settle a score. She carries rage, grief, and the weight of Thanos' legacy. To her, Tony is a symbol of her father's downfall. Their clash goes far beyond fists. It's a battle of traumas. Tony speaks of loss, New York, and friends who never made it back. Gamora bears the name of a tyrant and wrestles with her place in the universe. Tony decides to stop watching and start acting. Tired of being a bystander, he challenges the Grandmaster to a race, with the planet as the prize. The villain, amused, agrees and forces Gamora to join in. The challenge is a turbocharged mess. Futuristic chariots, exploding monsters, improvised weapons. During the chaos, Tony and Gamora help each other at critical moments. Together, win the race and publicly humiliate the Grandmaster. It's more a symbolic victory than a physical one, but it shifts the fate of Sakaar. But the happy ending doesn't last. Just as Tony prepares to go home and reunite with Pepper, Gamora stops him. She says she can't return to her father without him, and though reluctant, he understands. For the first time, his journey isn't just about him, it's also about unexpected alliances. And what comes next? Captain Peggy Carter is back in action, and she knows she's the one stealing the show. She leads a powerhouse team: Thor, Iron Man, Black Widow, Hawkeye, and Wasp. And between sarcastic banter and well-choreographed flying kicks, it's clear the squad has serious chemistry. And of course, the Watcher makes his signature appearance to remind us that the multiverse holds infinite possibilities. He says he returned every hero to their origin point, but Peggy's story was far from over. Enter Natasha. She discovers that the Hydra Stomper is active, and someone's inside it. And guess who? Steve, or something that looks like him. Peggy is shaken by the revelation. And just then, Nick Fury shows up with a truth bomb. Steve supposedly died in 1953 after taking down Hydra bases alongside Bucky. But since the 1960s, there have been whispers about the Stomper showing up in terrorist operations. All clues point to the Red Room. Oh, and Fury? Yeah, he knew the whole time and kept it quiet to spare Peggy's heart. The drama hits soap opera levels when Bucky Barnes, now Secretary of State, is attacked directly by the Stomper. Natasha freezes. After all, that's Steve, or something brainwashed into thinking it is. Bucky tries to reach him emotionally, but it doesn't work. The Stomper escapes. But Peggy, always the last to give up, believes Steve can still be saved. She decides to take him to the Red Room to search for a cure. Natasha reluctantly agrees, knowing full well this mission has disaster written all over it. The Red Room base, disguised as a classic American town, hides memories, traumas, and a touch of dystopian nightmare. There, we get the emotional core of the story. Peggy and Steve talk about the past, the time they lost, and the love that never was. They talk about dances they never shared, kisses that never happened, frozen promises, all backed by a soundtrack we can only imagine. But peace, of course, doesn't last. Melina, the Red Room leader, shows up and reveals it was all a trap. Steve's been manipulated all along. She reactivates him into combat mode. Then comes the showdown. Peggy faces Steve, fighting not just with strength, but with heart. She tries to bring him back, to remind him of who he is. He's torn, confused, and at a critical moment, he hesitates, then vanishes. Gone, Free? Lost between worlds? The answer remains a mystery. Peggy and Natasha escape with more scars than answers, but the fire in Carter doesn't fade. She vows to find him. That promise lingers in the air until a mysterious figure shows up with a new mission, something about a queen and saving a world. Because happy endings? That's fairy tale stuff. Here, the chaos never sleeps. In many universes, Asgard falls to the flames of Ragnarok, but here, fate took a different path. The Golden Realm crumbled before Odin could fulfill his final wish, to entrust the Tesseract to a peaceful village on Earth. When all turned to ashes, only one thing remained: the Tesseract, untouched, hurled through the cosmos until it landed in a sacred lake belonging to an indigenous people. It is in this setting that we meet Kahori, a fearless young woman exploring a region steeped in bloody legends with her friend Wata. She notices something strange about an otherwise ordinary lake. While fleeing from a brutal assault by Spanish conquistadors, the two stumble upon the enchanted lake and accidentally cross into another realm, passing through a portal into Sky World, a dimension where time stands still and no one dies. But no one leaves either. There, Kahori encounters Atarax, a local inhabitant who unveils the darker truth behind this paradise. It may be beautiful, but it's also a prison. She refuses eternal comfort. Her people are still suffering, and she still has a fight to win. Over time, Kahori learns to harness the spiritual gifts of the land. She hears the plants, feels the animals, trains, and grows. By joining a sacred hunt, she earns respect and recognition as a leader and warrior. Meanwhile, Rodrigo Gonzalo tries to exploit the sacred lake, but the land's energy turns on his soldiers. Screams echo. War draws near. Kahori makes her choice. She will return. She rallies the other Skyworld dwellers, not to flee, but to fight for their freedom. Even afraid, they follow her. She carries not just power, but purpose. The battle is brutal. Now empowered, Kahori liberates her village, rescues Wata, and defeats the invaders. But her mission isn't over. She confronts the Queen of Spain, delivering a powerful message. The world belongs to no one, and without peace there is no future. Her words resound with clarity, and then a new visitor arrives. Dr. Strange. With a wry smile, he admits her peace is admirable, but fragile. The multiverse needs her. The greatest battle is yet to come.
My name is Stephen Strange.
In an alternate universe shaped by ruthless ambition, Odin reigns supreme over Asgard. Long ago, he and Hela, his daughter and the goddess of death, conquered the 9 realms together. But Hela's ambition went further. She wanted the cosmos itself. Fearing she would destroy everything in her quest for power, Odin imprisoned her, severing their bond and erasing her name from history. Exiled, Hela falls to Midgard, where she encounters Wenwu, the master of the 10 rings. Their meeting begins in conflict, but mutual admiration and respect for each other's strength plant the seeds of an unlikely alliance. Guided by Morris, Hela finds her way to the mystical village of Talo, where she meets Jiayi, the spiritual guardian. Though she scoffs at the village's ancient wisdom, Hela agrees to train. But rather than battling monsters, she's forced to face herself. Through the JG, she begins to understand that true freedom doesn't come from conquest, but from breaking the chains of destiny. She begins to shed her father's shadow, the weight of expectations, and the mask of the warrior. Meanwhile, Odin, believing Hela to have been slain by mortals, seeks the 10 rings and launches an invasion of Midgard, repeating the very patterns he once condemned in her. Upon hearing of the attack, Hela does not flee. She returns, changed. With Jiayi, Wenwu, and the warriors of Talo at her side, she confronts Odin. The battle is epic. Gungnir, the king's spear, symbolizes his absolute rule, but Hela is no longer the same. At the critical moment, she hesitates. She chooses not to kill her father, realizing that control without compassion is just another kind of prison. With Odin defeated, he recognizes her transformation and offers her the throne, if she wishes it. But Hela wants more than to rule. She wants to rebuild. Alongside Wenwu, she merges the 10 rings with the legacy of Asgard to forge a new empire. Not to conquer, but to liberate. A new era begins. Even the goddess of death can learn the value of life. Loki, as if being the god of mischief wasn't enough, decides to try his luck on stage, performing Hamlet in a comedic play worthy of either an Oscar or a pink slip. The show quickly goes from tragicomic to end of days when a dimensional rift tears open the sky, like a cosmic sneak peek of the apocalypse, plunging the kingdom of 1602 straight into chaos and the express lane to destruction. In the middle of the mess, Queen Hela gets sucked into the rift, and since cross-dimensional communication isn't a thing, that's it. She's presumed dead. Thor, the ripped and emotionally volatile golden boy, inherits the crown and, in true medieval soap opera fashion, blames the only person with a brain and a sense of strategy, Peggy Carter. Peggy Peggy now has a target on her back, courtesy of the unhinged, golden-haired king. Enter the Watcher, that cosmic narrator who only shows up after everything goes to hell. To drop the obvious, the 1602 universe is collapsing because someone brought foreign elements into this timeline. And guess who? Wanda, of course. She thought throwing Peggy into the mix would fix reality, but the real culprit was the arrival of another time traveler, the Forerunner. According to the Watcher, time has an expiration date too. Like yogurt. Peggy becomes a fugitive of the crown but keeps her poise, and her lipstick intact. She starts assembling a new team of Renaissance-era heroes with help from Rogers Hood, Scott Lang, and more characters with medieval RPG names. They form the Resistance, that little spark of hope every script loves to brutally extinguish. And yes, it gets extinguished, ambushed by the Royal Army. Scott, the most charming little ant in the squad, stays behind in battle to ensure the team escapes. Someone had to take the hit. Peggy then breaks Bruce Banner out of prison. Tony Stark, the man who builds armors and gadgets more often than he changes underwear, finishes his latest invention, a Forerunner tracker, the guy behind the chronological chaos. To activate it, obviously it needs Thor's scepter. Cue the infiltration plan. The team goes undercover and sneaks into the castle, because apparently no one suspects a group of strangers at a royal ceremony. But the event is cut short by another rip in the sky. Classic 1602. Everything falls apart. Cue the Renaissance version of the UFC. Stark activates the tracker and boom, the Forerunner is Steve Rogers. Yup, Captain America. Yup, accidentally brought over from the final battle against Thanos. Yep, the multiverse is a mess. Peggy, torn between a spark of love and the weight of responsibility, makes the heartbreaking call. She sends Steve back to his original timeline. The rift closes, the skies clear, and the 1602 universe stabilizes. For now, the future, still a big, beautiful unknown. Enter Peggy Carter, hero, time displaced, and still missing her magical boy, Steve Rogers. But she's holding her ground in heels, with the poise of someone who's punched Nazis, and still found time to become a feminist icon. In between moments of reflection, who shows up but Strange Supreme, Dr. Strange's dark academia, alter ego, bringing a revelation and a mission. He takes Peggy to the Sanctum Infinitum. No tea here, just the Forge. A mystical structure that uses powerful variants as batteries in an effort to resurrect his doomed universe. Real healthy stuff. Kahori managed to escape, or rather, was allowed to escape by Strange, in what turns out to be a mission disguised as a trap, which means it's up to Peggy to play interdimensional detective. After a few mistrust-fueled punches and some solid hand-to-hand, the two women join forces against the true villain of the hour, Strange himself, who's gone full mad scientist and decided to play God with the multiverse. That's when the real chaos kicks off. They're thrust into a rebellion inside a multiversal prison, freeing creatures while trying to stop Strange's ritual. They face off against zombified villains. Hela, yes, the Hela, Surtur in full world-ending mode, and even Killmonger rocking the Infinity Armor. It's an all-out riot while the Forge devours variants like a gourmet black hole. The big anything-goes moment arrives when Strange tries to manipulate Peggy with a cheap illusion of Steve. But she may be nostalgic. She's not an idiot. Choosing the multiverse over a man. Historic. That choice shatters the illusion, seals her arc, and tosses Strange into the corner of the multiverse's timeout room for misbehaving gods. The final battle, a CGI-packed emotional roller coaster. The Forge implodes. Strange finally snaps and does what men often do when they love too hard and think too little. He sacrifices himself. He creates a brand new universe, just not one he can live in. Christine survives in that reality, unaware of the price paid to bring it to life. With the multiverse saved and chaos mostly contained, Peggy and Kahori make their grand escape. The prisoners are free. Strange pays the ultimate price, a reborn world that no longer includes him. And the Watcher? He quietly swallows his pride, acknowledging that it was a woman's courage, not cosmic monologues or divine interference, that saved the day. In a world of branching realities and dangerous choices, Bruce Banner seeks a rare moment of peace, with a little help from Sam Wilson. Between chats about yoga, cooking, and knitting, the real challenge lies within, controlling the monster inside. Sam becomes more than a counselor. He becomes a friend, and in that rare calm, Bruce finally confesses his deepest fear, being hated, even by himself. But peace never lasts. During a storm at sea, a violent incident causes Bruce to lose control. Desperate, he turns to a scientific solution to eliminate the Hulk for good, but the experiment goes horribly wrong. Instead of erasing the beast, Bruce creates a new Gamma-born entity, Apex, a self-aware, relentless, and independent creature. Apex assembles an army of Gamma beasts, release, unleashing destruction on a global scale. Cities fall, fear spreads. The remaining Avengers retaliate, piloting massive mech suits. But Apex is no mindless brute. He plans, leads, and conquers. A coordinated invasion has begun. Sam tracks down Bruce, now living in isolation inside a repurposed nuclear bomber-turned-lab. Bruce refuses to fight, but hands over the mighty Avenger Protocol, an interface designed for the mechs, originally built to contain the Hulk himself. It's his way of helping, without becoming the monster again. With the new tech, Earth's heroes regroup for a final stand in New York. The battle is brutal. Even with their upgraded weapons, the Avengers are overwhelmed. When all hope seems lost, the unthinkable happens. Bruce returns, but now there's an unstable gamma core within him. He's a walking bomb. He transforms into a new version of the Hulk, larger, more powerful, and self-aware. In a devastating showdown, Bruce confronts and defeats Apex. But something's changed. He doesn't revert. The Gamma creatures kneel before him, acknowledging their new alpha. The former Avengers look on, stunned, as the Mega Hulk locks eyes with Sam, who approaches unarmed, reminding him of who he truly is. And in the Hulk's gaze, something flickers. Humanity. The war ends. But more importantly, so does the one inside. On a freezing December night in 1991, the fate of the Avengers was almost sealed in blood. Instead of a clean assassination of the Starks by the Winter Soldier, chaos unfolds. The result, the Starks survive, and the future shifts. Alexei is assigned to a ridiculous mission as a data manager in Ohio. Frustrated, he defies Dreykov and starts sniffing out something bigger, the activation of the Winter Soldier. Determined to prove his worth, he disobeys orders and goes rogue, creating the first crack in the original timeline. With Bucky's mission ruined, S.H.I.E.L.D. steps in. Dr. Bill Foster discovers glowing blue blood, something off script. They lock down the area, but the damage is done. Alexei and Bucky flee together, kicking off a road trip filled with high-speed chases, swapped ideologies over fries, and a revolutionary speech in a classic American diner. Between helicopters, Goliath, and the FBI, one truth surfaces. Bucky doesn't remember who he is. With clumsy Sylvia tenderness, Alexei encourages him to remember, and Bucky sees Coney Island, a starting point. Their journey leads them to Las Vegas, where they meet Rook, the legendary spy, who turns out to be just a washed-up mercenary. He reveals that Bucky and Alexei were mere pawns on a much larger board. Bucky eliminates Rook, realizing they were both manipulated. It's the moment he breaks free from his obedience as a soldier, and it inspires Alexei to do the same. The Red Room retaliates. Karpov orders Bucky to kill Alexei, but Bucky makes a choice. He chooses not to obey, and for the first time, he fights with someone, not against. The final battle is brutal. Bucky is captured and lies about Alexei's whereabouts. Meanwhile, Alexei has become an instructor at an American school. Later, Bill Foster finds him, not as an enemy, but as an ally. S.H.I.E.L.D. wants him, just the way he is. And the Watcher reminds us, it's not wars that shape history, but the unlikely friendships forged within them. The Watcher is there, as always, doing his best cosmic Big Brother impersonation, just watching, lamenting, and doing absolutely nothing. This time, his interdimensional movie night plays a frustrating rerun every time Riri Williams shows up to save the day. The universe says, no, she stumbles, falls, fails. In every reality he observes, she can't stop the enemy's advance. It's like a bad reboot no one asked for. But fate keeps greenlighting. Amid the rubble and drones straight out of Black Mirror, there she is. Riri, buying an analog gadget that looks like it belongs in a museum. She strikes that I don't care pose, but everyone knows she's building something dangerous, and it's no science fair project, it's a weapon, the kind that makes villains rethink their life choices. Of course, the attack comes fast, and when it hits, it's as if Michael Bay was directing. Explosions, screaming, chaos. She only escapes thanks to the Alliance, a resistance group that looks like they walked out of an indie superhero flick, led by Ying Nan and Valkyrie. And Earth? Long gone. A Celestial woke up too early, like that one roommate who blasts music at 7 a.m. on a Sunday. Result, total annihilation. The Alliance clings to survival among the wreckage, half Mad Max, half cosplay of Hope. Their current nemesis, Quentin Beck. The MCU's former master of illusions is now using Stark Tech to play sci-fi dictator, turning Vision into a weapon of mass destruction under the banner of the Iron Federation. Their last shot? Riri. But their hideout gets discovered, because of course, even the Resistance can't avoid a security breach. When it all goes boom, Riri has exactly 7.5 minutes to build a device that shuts Vision down. A time so oddly specific, it might as well have been written by a lazy screenwriter. While Wong holds the line with spells, and the face of someone definitely not paid enough for this, Riri goes full furious engineer, and miraculously, it works. With hope reignited, for like the 10th time this week, the Alliance goes all in. Beck, now rocking nanites, those techie mosquito-looking things, controls everything. The only way out? Riri becoming one with the tech, literally. She proposes using Vision System to turn herself into a synthezoid, fusing her mind with the machine. And voila, meet Riri 2.0. Part human, part synthezoid, part identity crisis. The final mission begins. They dive into the system, face firewalls that would make any antivirus weep, and, of course, Riri gets captured. Beck, the most egocentric villain since the last one, reveals his grand plan, transferring his mind into her body. Because yes, he's that guy. But here's where the story flips. At the exact moment where she always failed, she doesn't fall. Riri fights back, hacks the nanites, and pulls off a MacGyver move, worthy of Tony Stark in a cave. Beck panics, but it's too late. She deletes him from digital existence. For the first time, she wins. The planet, wrecked but still breathing, gets another chance. Riri isn't just a survivor anymore. She's a symbol, a new kind of Captain America. And up in the stars, the gods are watching. The Watcher, the one who never interferes, is getting too involved, so much so that the other Watchers begin questioning his neutrality. Because this time, Riri didn't fail. In the wild west of an alternate universe, legends blend with gunpowder and mystery. The Watcher guides us through a tense frontier town, where the myth of the Ten Rings echoes like church bells in the dry air. Among the dusty alleys, two strangers emerge, carrying pain and purpose. Kate Bishop and Shang-Chi. Their mission is clear: to find Qiaoling, Shang-Chi's sister, and free Chinese laborers held captive by the sinister figure known as the Hood. Amidst the chaos, they meet Jun Fan, a boy searching for his kidnapped father, who speaks of a ghost train that allegedly took his family. With unexpected courage, the boy rekindles the heroic flame in both Kate and Shang. Mounted on horseback, they cross scorching deserts and harsh western landscapes until the train appears, spectral and looming. Boarding it, they uncover a nightmare: stolen weapons from Stark and Hammer Industries being trafficked by Sonny Birch. Posing as a liberator, he delivers a cruel truth. He was the one who killed Kate's parents, not the Hood. But the biggest twist lies in the last car. The Hood isn't just any villain, it's Qiaoling. Corrupted, she overthrew the original Hood and took his place. The confrontation between siblings ignites, not only in combat, but in searing truths. Shang-Chi refuses to strike back. He tries to save her, but it's too late. Qiaoling is mortally wounded, and in her brother's arms, through tears and final confessions, she rediscovers a flicker of humanity, and dies as the sister he had been searching for. The train halts. The Hood's reign ends. Junfan rises as a symbol of hope. Kate turns her pain into purpose, and Shang-Chi embraces his sister's legacy, not as the Hood, but as a hero who honors her memory. The sun sets over the west, and the Watcher, ever vigilant, is confronted by a shadowy figure, the Eminence, who accuses him of interfering too much. The multiverse shows signs of unraveling, and the next choice may change everything. We cut to total chaos. A cosmic monster tears through the very fabric of reality, devours an entire planet like it's an end-of-the-party snack, and wipes out the jump points. Amid the screams, stardust, and full-blown panic, a ragtag cosmic squad emerges, basically the multiverse's version of the B-Team Avengers. Kahori, with the calm of a Tibetan monk. Storm, Queen of Thunder and Grand Entrances. Birdie, top-notch pilot, sharp tongue on standby. And of course, the legend herself, Captain Carter, the British soldier with a shield and zero patience. The cosmic brawl is explosive, and in the end, it's Peggy who brings down the beast. Sweaty, breathless, and far from glamorous, but as with every event that ends with a taste of the worst is yet to come, fragments of the observation plane start falling from the sky. Something happened to the Watcher, our bald, big-headed multiversal voyeur, and that's when the Eminence shows up. The Watcher of Watchers, the boss of the multiversal Big Brother, accusing our favorite bald overseer of breaking his sacred vow. Observe, don't interfere. Naturally, the hunt begins. If there's one thing cosmic beings excel at, it's judging with flair. The multiverse starts to quake. This unlikely gang sets their sights on the fifth dimension, not just another universe, but a superior plane of existence. They try to get there using Birdie's souped-up ship, and Storm even casts a powerful spell. It nearly works, but in the end, fails, consuming a dimensional fragment as payment. The message is clear, the path is blocked. So what do you do when all else fails? You throw logic out the window. Enter the most bureaucratic nightmare idea ever: Free Infinity Ultron. Yes, that genocidal android. And see if he can punch through. Is it insane? Absolutely. That same night, Peggy shares a quiet moment with Storm. She doesn't cry, but she's visibly scared, vulnerable. She misses the Watcher. Storm, ever the intergalactic therapist, reminds her that pain isn't something to run from. It's something to face. Like cosmic bills that always come due. The next day, Ultron surprises everyone. No sudden attacks. Instead, he drops a metaphysical bombshell. Peggy was taken by another Watcher, a mysterious entity who briefly appeared and interfered, but whose motives remain unclear. Ultron, now a tortured soul with the aura of a remorseful program, acknowledges the emptiness of his ruined reality and chooses to help, knowing it won't undo his past. He hands over the final fragment of the observation plane, and then revelations come crashing down. Fates, threats, connections, but a shadow remains, a blind spot even Ultron can't see, and that's where they have to go. No map, no plan B, no guarantee they'll make it back, just a desperate push into the fifth dimension. We cut to a flashback, where we meet a seasoned disciple facing the final trial of the mystical entrance exam to existence, tossing away his ID, his social security number, and even his ego to become a Watcher, a nameless, desireless being, a cosmic voyeur with a neutrality badge. Leading this gig is the Eminence, an imposing figure who only speaks in one-liners. Despite his fears, the disciple accepts his fate. The transformation begins. He now sees everything, and boy, what a mess that turns out to be. Because yes, seeing everything sounds great, until you find yourself wanting to do something about it. The disciple, now a former one, breaks the Sacred Watcher oath. He interferes, saves lives, and to really top off his disciplinary record, he shares knowledge with Stephen Strange. The verdict? A cosmic HR hearing. Instant expulsion. He tries to explain, but no one listens. Now he understands. Even the smallest life has meaning. Before the Order can slap the multiversal pink slip on his forehead, guess who steps in to save him? Ultron. Yep, the same robotic exterminator who had been with the group all along. He chooses to sacrifice himself to protect them. The escape turns into an interdimensional Fast and Furious episode, complete with chases and perfectly choreographed explosions. And in a dramatic climax, Ultron goes out in a blaze of glory, a redemption arc worthy of an Oscar, or at least an Emmy. Now homeless across the multiverse, the group hatches a kamikaze plan, lure the Watchers into Doctor Strange's home turf, a realm where rules bend, the impossible is Tuesday, and even all-seeing deities lose Wi-Fi. But of course, it's not all portals and spellcraft. Midway through, they're intercepted, and just like that, an epic battle erupts, full-on martial drum soundtrack and heroic sacrifice vibes. One name etched into the martyr wall, Peggy Carter, or so it seems. Her death isn't shown, but the emotional weight hits hard. A silent farewell that echoes across realities. They reach Strange's domain. The plan works. The Watchers, so used to channel surfing existence, start to glitch. Uatu, the rogue Watcher, confronts his former boss, and refuses to be a background character. He feels, he chooses, he acts. He faces down the Master, as the once arrogant Order watches its own collapse unfold. The Watchers are defeated. Silence falls. But it's not peace, it's mourning. Peggy is seemingly gone. Kahori, overcome with grief, voices the question all sentient beings fear. What lies beyond death? As the curtain falls, Uatu finally gets it. Being a true Watcher isn't about being above it all. It's about doubting, choosing, asking, what if? The multiverse isn't a line, it's a prism. And now at last, he's ready to see.